Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Trees. I'm taking on a tree of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, and did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
Yes. What's up? Welcome, everybody, to Black Power Media. Jared Ball, Jackie Lukman with the fresh dew in the building. Welcome. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Jump on in. How you doing, Jackie? You're muted, I think. I think you're muted. But like, share, subscribe, join the platform. Put this in your socials. Let it know it's happening. And let's get right to it as we welcome Dr. Cornel West back to the platform. Jackie Lukman, Kamal Franklin, almost. Dr. West, welcome back. Good to see you.
Oh, it's always a blessing to see your beautiful faces there. You all still here just like me. We still here, still trying to swing, still trying to keep fighting there.
So,
all right. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, we can hear your lovely voice there, sister. Absolutely.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Can you also hear my lovely voice?
I can hear your wonderful voice, but it's a little less lovely than hers, but it's wonderful though. Right?
I try.
Slightly less.
Slightly less.
Jared say just a little
less. But Dr. West, okay, so we know time is relatively short. There's a lot to get to, a lot of changes since you were here last time. I know my comrades have at least as many questions and comments as I do. So if we could just start with a quick update with the change in your campaign manager. I think you have not been here since you made the decision to leave the Green Party and move on independently. So could we start with those two shifts to catch us up? And then after that, I would like to play a clip from Ajamu Baraka, because I'd like to get your response to what he says directly about what he saw as a potential for your campaign had you not made this change. But if we could just
Absolutely.
Catch us up, if you would.
Yeah, has it been that long? Maybe we did the music.
We did the music one in between.
Sector thing a little later, but not the political thing. That's
right.
What it is. I didn't realize we hadn't talked since Brother Peter came in, and he just resigned the day before yesterday for health reasons. Though I'm really concerned about he and his precious family trying to hold on, given what's going on now in his childhood in Beirut and so forth. But no, leaving the Green Party was, we're given all the internal challenges of the Green Party and having to go from state to state and 4 debates and so forth, and then trying to make sure you balance the interests of the Green Party versus the interests of the campaign. That just became too overwhelming. And even though it was beautiful to have those 17 states at the very beginning, even that was going to be a challenge if you didn't have the kind of unity that's required. And so I decided to go independent. And with independent, as you know, certain states you have fewer signatures, other states you have more signatures, but it's just you're freer. You're just much more freer. There's no doubt about it. The Green Party is probably the most important political party on the left. But I must say, I've said before, being a jazz man in a party band is a very difficult thing. And I'm much more tied to focusing on the people, and especially Black folk. I mean, the Green Party is magnificent, but it's never put Black people and Black predicament at the center of its worldview. It just hasn't. And so you had to generate some kind of tension no matter what. Now, no, brother Jama has been able to walk that tightrope much better than I have, and I can learn some things from him. Same is true with Brother Bruce. I used to spend a lot of time with Brother Bruce Dixon, who I love very deeply, very, very deeply. But there was a whole host of challenges. So there was some losses in terms of ballot access. There's no doubt about that. But I just feel much more freer not having to worry about that party nomination process. You see, that's the thing too. That thing was much more difficult than one would think.
Right, but okay. So let me just jump in here, and if we could take about 90 seconds, and I would encourage people to check out the full discussion that Baraka had with our comrade, brother Sundiata, Dr. Sundiata Chajuwa on Real Talk the other day. But just this is I like the way Baraka summarizes what he saw as a potential here, and I'd like you to respond to this.
Absolutely.
Just about 90 seconds.
I do whatever. With the particular dynamics that are unfolding and would have unfolded in 2024, with the independence run now of Robert F. Kennedy, with the no labels attempt to put a so-called centrist on the ballot in 50 states. To show you how difficult that is, they have budgeted $70 million for that, okay? With the libertarians, with the fact that in the Democrat Party, over 40% of the Democrats said they will consider a third party. There was the possibility of a plurality path to the White House.
If you built on organizations and you had clearly identifiable goals of transformation.
Yes, that is what the campaign was developing. There were people being brought in that was developing all of that. They was developing the apparatus, okay? But the brother, for various reasons he has to tell you, they decided to go another route. And unfortunately, it raises the question of how serious he really was, you know, and how serious he will be. Because if you can't get on the ballots, it's good you can raise certain kind of questions and all of that. That's important. But in terms of the struggle for power, you've taken yourself out of that equation.
Okay, so yeah, what are your thoughts about that? Because I admit when he described that as naive at the beginning of that clip, I feel the same way. That I feel like it was a little naive. I mean, it's naive. I felt a naivete that Baraka claims in his assessment, like that might have happened. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think Baraka, I mean, he always presents a strong argument, though. It's not always compelling to me, but it's a strong argument. There's no doubt about it. He's serious. He's a serious thinker. He's a serious revolutionary figure in our tradition. And I consider him very much to be a part of our tradition in a substantive way. I just think that the very fact of having that 17, you see, you still got 33 more. And of those 33, that's a whole lot of work in very crucial states. You see, we can definitely get on about 20 and maybe 35. You can't even begin the process till January. I'm going to Utah right now. Utah is the first state that has a deadline prior to January. And as you know, you got states like New York, you only got 42 days, 46,000 signatures, really need 92,000 because they're going to invalidate 50% of them, you see. But there's a number of states, just 1,000. There's another 2,000 and so forth. I'm going to each one of those states. I think what Brother Baraka was fundamentally concerned about in terms of struggling with power is you have a people-centered movement like Run for Presidency, and the Green Party facilitates ballot access. Now, if you have intentions with the Green Party, then that is something that has to be taken very, very seriously, especially if you're the person in the middle of it, because you don't want to come out different than who you are going in. But at the same time, it just means you have much more work to do. Yes, that's true. But I think you can have a people-centered campaign without a third party with the same vision, same brother, same fire. Now, exactly how that turns out, we don't know, because we're dealing with real time. And you got, World War III escalating in Ukraine, now in the Middle East as well. It's clear that Biden's supporting genocide. It's clear that Trump is even worse. It's clear that no labels would be as tied to the genocide as Biden. I don't know what other figures at that national level would be trying to speak the truth about the Palestinian brothers and sisters, the Ukrainian war, let alone the Wall Street and Silicon Valley and others. So that I hear what he's saying, and the challenge is, if the ball is in my court, I've got to be able to respond concretely. In a sense, my answer to his question has to be in a praxis, in a campaign that he sees manifest. And right now, it's very clear that we're worse in terms of ballot access, but I think we're better in terms of being freed up.
So, Dr. West, the shortcomings of the Green Party, absolutely acknowledged. Absolutely true. The Green Party, folks in the hood don't know the Green Party. I think that's very true. And pick a hood across this country where working class, poor, and oppressed, African, indigenous, whatever group of oppressed people, they're not as familiar with the Green Party as we would like for them to be. But I also think that couldn't the same be said about you in general? Because outside of those of us who are organizers, most people probably have a kind of tertiary, somewhere on the margins, understanding of who you are, the length and breadth of your work, and why you are running. So it seems that instead of using the Green Party and using your long history of activism, your eloquence, your passion, to take that Green Party apparatus that already had 17 states, ballot access in 17 states, that was done. That's not something you have to fight for and pursue. That was done. It seems that instead of expanding or advancing the Green Party into those communities that need to know that there is a third party option that's viable, and also need to know that there is a political candidate who has better policies than the two major political political parties, what you've done is thrown away the apparatus, the organizational apparatus that would have gotten you into those communities and expanded the reach of those of the Green Party and yourself into those communities to basically start over from scratch. And that doesn't seem to me to be helpful. And not just to me, that does not seem to be helpful to a lot of people who are wondering, what was the utility of scrapping, walking away from, scrapping is probably not the best word, I apologize.
Right,
but
no,
walking away from an established organization, an established organized entity, because I think that is the key here. We're talking about how do we organize the masses in terms of electoral politics. We can say what we want about electoral politics, but most of our people are still very invested in electoral politics. So how do you respond to people who see you walking away from 17 states, you being on the ballot in 17 states in the Green Party with the platform that you have that is on your website, by the way, and now you're having to gain ballot access in those 17 states that you had in the Green Party and gain more ballot access in other states without the organization, without the apparatus? How do you reach the masses and organize them when you don't have an organization that you're connected to help you do that?
No, yeah, I view that as the powerful question. That's the kissing cousin of the powerful question that Brother Baraka just raised, because the two overlap in a significant way. You're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about organization, and you're talking about ways in which everyday people can become themselves part and parcel of a movement like effort in electoral politics. And that's always been a crucial one. I remember I was in Philadelphia in 1980 with Brother Manning with MBIT. We were raising that issue then, the National Black Independent Political Party, because I would argue that I'm much more known among everyday Black people than the Green Party. I think that's a fact. Not as an organizer, but as a voice. Mainly because I just been around for so long and I spent so much time with Black folk in different content. I'm gonna be speaking at the convocation of Kojic in a week or so. And that's the largest Black denomination in the world, right? In Memphis, same place with Martin was. And I've been in a zillion of those contexts where the masses of Black people are. Now, where are the masses of Black people organizationally? Electoral politics, Democratic Party, culturally, church, mosque, civic association, and so forth, Black colleges and what have you. So that for me, I had to get freed up because, I mean, the thing about the Green Party is even though it looks so well on paper with 17 states, if you got to spend a whole lot of time in the Green Party with internal debates, different Green Party activities, with Green Party candidates you never met, 4 debates with presidential candidates, because there's 7 of them running, right? And then also financially, it's a matter of trying to make sure when you generate finances for the party, whether in fact those finances are able to then spill over into one's own candidates. And I don't have that much money anyway. I got very, very, very limited flow. We got 10,000 volunteers, right? We raised $250,000. Biden got 71 million. So we're talking about low resources. And if I'm spending more, if I can spend more people going directly, more time going directly to the people rather than dealing with internal Green Party activity, then that 17 state assets that you're talking about, because that's really the main asset, that looks a little less than one would think. And what I don't want to do or ever find myself doing is just trying to just funnel Black folk and other folk into a party that has all the internal dynamics and dysfunctionality that it has. And that is a major choice that one has to make, you see, so that there's a number of different factors and variables I hope I'm trying to lay bare and make visible here, rather than just that 17 state asset, especially if we end up with 35. Now, one could argue even further and say, well, what happens after the election? What infrastructures are still in place? Well, we've seen that in the Green Party in 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016. What happens to the Green Party after the election? It's still the same Green Party. It's still the same Green Party. And usually the states are much fewer. You can get up with 44, then it ends up with 17. So that I do hear what you're saying, my dear sister Jackie. I do, and I hear Baraka, but there was just no way that I could fully both not just be myself, but also justify to not just Black people, but other poor people and working people, that the Green Party was the indispensable institutional vehicle for a campaign that was going to be as distinctive as mine, if I was going to be free enough about it. I mean, I'll give you an example. You know, you got examples in the Green Party. People raise issues about, you know, why you're religious. Like when I was in Mississippi, how come you're spending all this time with the Black folk? And I'm 70 years old. I ain't got time for those kind of challenges. I really don't. I got to be able to be free enough to take off and do all kind of other things, you see. And those are the kind of questions that could stand in the way of even getting the Green Party nomination. And the idea of I got to think about it. My relation to Jesus, my relation to Jamal and Letitia, my relation to Juanita. Hey, I only got a year and a month to work this thing out. I ain't got time to be explaining that kind of ABC stuff to folk whose institutions I have to get the stamp for. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm serious about that. I mean, I don't want to use too strong a metaphor, but I can tell you this, that I ain't never been the kind of black man on anybody's plantation. I don't care what form the plantation is. Left wing, center, right wing, white, black, whatever it is. That ain't me. Well, that sounds a little individualistic. Well, no, because it's in the name of what my calling is, and my calling is always to be with everyday folk at their best. And so at that deep existential level, I just knew I couldn't do it. Am I going on too long, my dear sister?
No, you're not going on too long. I don't want to hog the conversation.
But does it make sense? Does it make sense to you?
I will say that again, the Green Party absolutely has its weaknesses. It definitely does. And I've had those conversations, and I'm just going to be real honest. I have gone back and forth with folks in the Green Party over the issue in Ukraine. I know people who have, in Chicago, there was a young brother a few years ago who took over a Green Party chapter because of these issues. Yeah, so these are issues that we understand are a part of struggling with the Green Party. I do continue to question how we, as revolutionaries and radicals, expect to give people who have no political power outside of any political apparatus, how we expect them to bring them to an organized mass to gain political power. Because without being outside of a third party apparatus, you can't take it over. Like you can't go in there, now not being associated with the Green Party. You can't have these arguments, conversations, discussions, and knock down dragouts with some of these weirdos in the Green Party.
God bless them. God bless them. God bless their
if
soul.
You're not in the
got
party,
one life to live. No, go right ahead.
So what we're doing is talking about these issues in this third party that could be beneficial to us without actually raising to the consciousness of our people these issues and why it's important for us to engage with these people, and how we deal with that. So the Green Party continues, and to the point of, the Green Party has never done anything after elections. Absolutely true, because of some of these issues. And I think because, look, some people need to be led with a gentle hand. Some people don't like Black radicals. Some people don't like certain language. And I just feel like you were an opportunity for the dynamics in the Green Party to be exposed more. I think more than they were in 2016. And to bring more revolutionary, change-minded Africans into a party that they could have transformed for themselves on the local level, right? And I don't know what your apparatus is to translate that potential for organizational power, to even contend for organizational power for our people in being completely independent in the political arena. I am of the opinion, and I'll stop right here. I'm of the opinion that you would have mopped the floor with anybody that you had been on a debate stage with. I don't think there would have been any question going into debates, and I understand debates are tiresome and they're onerous, and I get that. But you do have to fight for the nomination. And I believe, and a lot of people believed, that you would have won the nomination easily, hands down, without question. So people are feeling disappointed and feeling like, and I'm trying not to talk for other people, but people are feeling like that what is the point of them fighting if you wouldn't fight for,
Oh, no.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what Jim. We never want people to be in a situation you got to wait for one Negro to fight before you fight. Come on now.
No,
No.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should be there.
Right.
I'm talking about the reality of where, because if I think we have to be honest about where our people are politically. A lot of our people, not all of our people, but too many of our people. I don't like saviorism. I don't like the idea of saviorism, and this is not what we want.
This messianic stuff got to go.
Yes. But a lot of our people who are still very committed to the electoral process are looking for someone to say there is a better way. And I don't see how you can reach the amount of people, the mass of people that we need with that message of there is a better way, not with the message of I'm the better way, not with the message of look at what I'm doing, or not even the Green Party is the better way, but we're going to use the Green Party to get the issues that we need on the ballot. And I need you to do it. You need to be involved in this in order for your issues to be a part of this process. And I don't see how you are able to do that without an organized political apparatus behind you that has ballot access that you don't have to fight for, even as you do have to contend with folks in the Green Party who can be intransigent, I guess that's the word. But again, I don't think they would have been a roadblock to you for the nomination. I don't think they would have been, especially when our people would have been made aware of these conversations and these fights, because you know how we do. We like a fight. We're gonna take our earrings off and we're gonna put Vaseline on and you're attacking our people. No, you're not.
But let me just give you a brief example. Then we'll make sure we have the other brothers jump in here. Okay, if I go to Mississippi and the Green Party has set up some independent thing that hardly let me know that they want to march in front of the Capitol. I've already got events with the Emmett Till family, with the Jenkins family, with the Parker family. Those are the two brothers brutalized by these vicious police down there. I've got connection. I got an event with the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party, and that's Fannie Lou Hamer. Now, Fannie Lou Hamer's like a reefer. These people can kiss my black behind if they think I'm going to push Fannie Lou Hamer's party to the side for the Green Party. Oh, you have to make a choice. No, I don't have to make no goddamn choice. I don't even think ain't no comparison. So I go with Cardell. I go to Lexington. Then I go to Braxton. And they say, well, no, you're spending all this time on the chocolate side. Then it's true, you had some brothers and sisters who were doing some things from the nation and wanted, because Malik Shabazz was the lawyer, and he's my brother from 25 years. I knew him when he was at Howard, and at Howard Law, and he's a lawyer.
Stop.
So
I'm sorry.
So
Dr.
he was
West,
doing something.
Dr.
So I
West,
had an event with Malik.
You telling me to stop, Kamal? I can't have it. I'm sorry. That name is a no-go round here. We can't be, we got to check that, like what he and his crew that happened with Daruba is unacceptable. So I just want to put that out.
What happened with Daruba?
If you don't know about that, Dr. West, and we got to talk later, but for you to be wrong, if you're going to claim that name, if you're going to claim that man's name,
that's
if you're going to claim
that,
then
that work that they're doing down there with those brothers. Well, that's another dialogue. But let me get back to my point. Let me get back to my point. My point was with the Green Party, if I'm spending time with the dynamics going on in the black community in Mississippi, that is broad. That includes a whole lot of folks now, right? It's a whole lot of folk. We had the head of the NAACP. We had the head of the Mississippi Democratic Party. We had the head of we didn't have the head. We had Nation of Islam activists. You had black church people and so forth. And the Green Party's pulling to have this gathering, which is just a little small group of white brothers and sisters trying to do the right thing in Mississippi. Then those are the kind of tensions and pros and cons that that's just one brief example. It goes further than that. And then it even gets deeper in terms of the, some of the deep clashes and conflict. But that's one example. You see what I mean?
I think
Can
it's,
you imagine that on a national scale, though, Sister Jackie?
See,
I think
for
it's
me,
understood. Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kamau.
no, I was just going to say quickly. So again, I think the bigger point would be, even if you're running, what is the apparatus that is going to be there past you? Right. So even if you feel like the Green Party is not, and obviously we don't necessarily think the Green Party is the ultimate party, but it
Right.
is a party that that I think you obviously would have won the nomination with all the trials and tribulations, and it has infrastructure. So does it make sense for you to build that out? Or if it makes sense for you to build out something new, as opposed to you run, the race is over and you go back to being the jazz man doing Cornell, but there's no apparatus left behind you anymore, right? So I think that becomes part of the major issue.
Right.
Now, before
That's
you
true.
answer that, I have a conspiracy theory I want you to debunk for me,
Mm-hmm.
about why you left the Green Party per se.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in the Green Party and things are chugging along. And part of this will be a layered thing. You bring on your campaign manager, who seems to be a little to the right of you. I'm gonna pause there for effect. So he seems to be a little bit to the right, but there seems to be other influential people in your life. I think Brother Harland, the billionaire.
Oh, Harlan Crow, you mean the right-wing brother down in Dallas?
That brother. So it seems to be that he comes on the scene and offers potentially a lot of money that allows you to leave the Green Party and then decide to go and try to build out the national base. But the reaction to Harland and who he is, and the rightful reaction and pushback, kind of leaves you having to sort of not take his money. But my conspiracy is, did you leave because you thought in the background that you had somebody who's going to give you money to build out the campaign, other than what the Green Party had at its presence anyway? And then you don't have the hassle of the Green Party. And then we can get into the details about who these other figures are or whatever like that. But that's my conspiracy.
Right. No, I appreciate you being honest and candid. I want to debunk that immediately, though, brother. Good God Almighty. One is, I'm running a campaign where there's limits. If I had a PAC, that'd be different. If Harlan was tied to a PAC, he's a billionaire, right? So if I had a PAC, he could give millions. All he could give, as you know, is $3,300. That's it. I've known him for 12 years. I go down to Dallas almost every year to Brother Flowers' school, St. Philip's School, which is an all-black school where Erykah Badu's kids playing the cello and the violin. I see him all the time. And he has a connection with them and has given them money. And they got a Harlan Crow school, a room for him and so forth. So I get a chance to interact with him, and all he does is give money to a variety of different candidates. As you know, he's given to DeSantis, he's given to Christie, he's given to about 6 or 7 different candidates, and he gives the money to me of $3,000. Now, $3,000 ain't gonna do nothing. That's doodly squat, not just in relation to his money, but even to my campaign. And he gave that money while I was still with the Green Party early on. I made the announcement in June. Jill Stein mentioned that to me maybe in early July and said, should we take this money? He's the one tied to Clarence. I said, oh, I know Harlan from Dallas. Keep his money. I take money from a variety of different folks. I'm a free man. I don't care whoever gives me money. I'm going to be the same person no matter what. It's only reason why it surfaced was because finally during the quarter, all of the names were made available. And you look at when he gave the money, I was still a member of the Green Party way back when. Now, Jill rightly wrote me a little note. Said, Brother West, this is going to be problematic. Why? Because he's tied to Clarence. I said, well, I don't know who's giving them my money, but whatever they give, they can only give $3,300. They can't. This is not a PAC that has these kind of strings telling people if I give you more money, you got to say X, Y, and Z at all. Oh, no, not at all. That my struggles with the Green Party, even Brother Barack, I would tell you the truth. that even when we were in the screen together, I'd say, Brother Barker, man, you a strong brother be dealing with these Green Party people, man. I'm telling you, though, man, we got different kind of folk in the world. It is a challenge. There ain't no doubt about that. So that in that regard, no. Now, when Peter came along, who was recommended by Jill Stein, as you know, right? When Peter came along, we had to sit down and look at the pros and cons, because it became a matter also of finances. How do we sustain ourselves financially, and how do we invest in the ballot access when, in fact, it was very difficult in certain states for us to be able to get all of the signatures on the one hand, and then have the Green Party follow through in the way that they ought in regard to the campaign. So you had tensions between campaign and party. And of course, I've never a Green. I joined the Green when I decided to run for Green, right? But I've never been a Green person in my life. I've never been a member of any political party in my life. I would have joined MBIP, but that didn't get off the ground. And other than that, I've just never been a member at all. And so I want to debunk this notion, that the conspiratorial thing, that somehow it had to do with right-wing money. And so, no, not at all. Not at all.
Could you finish your point also about why Peter says he left? You mentioned the issue with Beirut. If you could just finish that thought, his connection to Beirut.
Yeah,
it was
for health reasons, though. Yeah. I mean, that he, his doctor had said that his blood pressure was such because of these various nightmares. You know, he grew up in Beirut with all of the bombings and so forth. And he was saying that the Gaza stuff has been really hitting him hard with all of these different kind of re-triggering the traumas. And he talked it over with his precious wife and his precious daughter. And they all of them were very, very much on board for the campaign. I mean, you know, he's undergone some changes. You know, he worked with the warmongering Hillary Clinton and so forth. The history, of course, speaks for itself in a very negative way, but he underwent some changes. But the health reasons kicked in so intensely that there was just no way he could continue. And so we're in another transition here now.
To clarify that point, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But Brother Franklin, does my response make sense to you?
No, it does in terms of some of the timing. If there's a critique, of course, even if you know Harland well, being that who you are and the office that you're running for, that you had to know or should have known without even anybody saying that this would have came back and impacted you in a very negative way, right? If you stand against the billionaire class, but yet the billionaire seems to be giving resources that we know of, particularly a billionaire of that ilk, not that they're all that different anyway, but you know.
Right.
So I do think that's something, but obviously I think that stands out in terms of something that seems, again, to be counter your image of who you are. Even if you're a free man, you can take money from anybody you want. Of course, you are Cornel West running for president on the very left ideas around disbanding or destroying or taking away the billionaire class, their resources and so forth.
Absolutely.
I think that part is an open contradiction and obviously should be called out, criticized, and so forth.
What about the amount? The issue of the amount, $3,000 versus.
I think it's more the optics and the connections.
Is it just optics, or is it substantive too?
It's substantive. It is.
And you calling him friend and brother, and you know what I mean. It's got that. It's you know.
He's basically having parties and organizing events where he's bringing the elite together to discuss amongst themselves how to serve the billionaire class. So he's just not like some, like, not that this exists, of course, but you know, their public image of he's just some old nice guy who just happens to be a billionaire who wants the best for all of us. He has political interests, which he makes sure he massages to bring about his needs. Part of that massaging is what he does with Clarence Thomas and other people on the Supreme Court, what he does in Congress in terms of lobbying, what he does probably with whatever parties in terms of giving. he's looking not only for influence, but for control, for power. So it's, and if he happens to also give money to some black schools for purposes of publicity or propaganda, then so be it. But his true nature, in terms of his class nature, is obviously to dominate the electoral system to serve him. You know that going into it. And so even if he is somebody who you can talk to or relate to or have a conversation with, it obviously both optics, resources, and everything else on its face. Because then it begs the question. Of course, we know what the limit is of what they gave you, $300,000.
Right.
This is part of a conspiracy theory. Who knows what else he's donating to or what else he's giving to, blah, 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 that kind of thing. One begs the other question, whether it's true or not. And so the best practice, of course, for a person in your position running for what you're running on in your particular platform is to say thank you, but no thank you, right?
No, I hear what you're saying.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. I was just gonna say, as my daughters say, it's giving the other little the other controversy we're in recently, that we condemn the conflict on both sides type of vibe. It's giving that kind of energy. That's all. That's it. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have to add that, when our people hear that someone like Harlan Crow not only was deeply involved in this. I mean, you want to talk about a conspiracy. A conspiracy is just something that a bunch of people got together to do and didn't tell you about it. It's not that it's not true. It's just that they kept it a secret from you. Mm-hmm. When we understand that this man has been deeply involved in an entire Christian right-wing lobbying campaign to control the Supreme Court, to influence the Supreme Court for not just years, for decades. And he has funded a great deal of that, and we see the result of that. But this is also a man who has, I think you described it in your tweet, a Never Again collection that includes Nazi memorabilia. I guess in his estimation, the communist revolution in China under Mao, well, that should have never happened. The people should have never been freed from feudalism. Stalin should have never won the World War II against the Nazis. I mean, when people see that kind of thing, and these are the kind of people who are giving money to your campaign, no matter how much money or how little money it is, people are looking at that saying, what kind of people are you willing to associate with? Because people like Harlan Crow not only actively use their vast and unimaginable wealth to oppress folks who look like every single one of us on this panel and most of the people watching, but they are unconcerned about the ongoing oppression of our people because they fund it. So someone like him having what he called a never again, what did Mao do to him? What did Stalin do to him? And how are you lumping those people in with Hitler? And then to prop up Jefferson and Washington as these patriots, that he has this collection of Jefferson and Washington, bunch of slave owners. Why are we supposed to be okay with that?
Oh no, but see, my claim was not to be okay with it. I was just trying to get the truth out in terms of what his particular right-wing perspective is. It's a whole bunch of people out there who have a right-wing perspective, which we oppose, which we call into question, right? But ultimately for me, it's the question of, have people seen in my words or deeds any change in what I would do, no matter who gives me money? I got hundreds of folk giving me money. I don't know who they are.
That's fair.
Why? Because
That's
I'm
fair.
the same. I'm the same motherfucker, no matter whether I have money or not. That's just who I am, and that's what I'm gonna be. So it doesn't make any difference. It really does.
So
Now, the optics do, the perceptions do. That's why in the second tweet I said the overwhelming role of perceptions over the truth are real. But in terms of the effect on me, people think it was. And that's why when Brother Franklin said, "Well, I think there might be even a strained causal connection between this money given and certain action, right? Leaving the party." I got to debunk that. That's a question of my integrity. That's a question of who I am as a human being, as a brother, as a black man, as a free man, right? And if anybody can see any change in what I say or do, any less courage, less willingness to serve the people, less willingness to sacrifice for the people, no matter what the money, then we really do have a issue.
So, but for me, and this would be similar to what also occurred recently on Twitter, at least as I saw it, with your perceived leaning towards a false equivalence between Palestinians and Israelis, is that when, yes, it's not a matter just of your behavior changing, it's a matter of what that continued activity looks like and what impact it has when received in the frame or through a lens of, well, he also kind of leans towards this guy, kind of leans towards this group, and does kind of, I think that's the point for me, is that it's not that you're going to change, it's that the impact of what you're doing is going to change. But
I mean, even with the Palestinian situation, though, what I would have written 20 years ago with Edward Zaid, as opposed to what I wrote in the last 2 weeks, is still the same. It's still the same. I haven't changed my views about the vicious domination and occupation. I haven't changed my views about a Palestinian life has less value than Israeli life. I haven't changed my views about blood on the head. That's all in the tweets, right? The hands are on the U.S. government and the Israeli government and so forth. Now, I've got certain differences of folk in regard to Hamas. Oh, ain't no doubt about that. Very much so. That resistance takes a number of different forms. And if it takes the form of killing innocent folk, then I've always been critical of that. I've always been critical of that, you see. And there we got different orientations. We can argue with Nat Turner in the same way. I mean, I've had
so would that be your argument?
So we got different sensibilities.
Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you on that. So would that be your article? Would that be your argument that Nat Turner, if that's, we do these juxtapositions or these historical things, if you were alive and heard about Nat Turner slave revolt, and part of that slave revolt was killing the family of enslavers who benefited from the enslavement, would your first statement be that although we respect the right of the enslaved to fight back, the innocent killing of the owners of the families of slave owners needs to be condemned?
No, it would be exactly what it was before. I would be supportive of Nat Turner. I'd be supportive of the spirit of resistance. I would talk about his courage in relation to a great black folk. And I would talk about the ways in which one goes about expressing that resistance. And then I would say you don't kill innocent children.
Okay, Dr. West.
But it'd be that
is a moral stand. No one is rooting for or suggesting that they're like, but the point is that the killing has gone on for literally 75 years, if not longer, particularly in Palestine, and
230 some years in this situation with Nat Turner.
Of course, yes. And so when you put out, when finally, and I'll put it like this:
sure,
when those who are enslaved and or oppressed fight back or do something back, even though day after day their family, their children are being killed, murdered, arrested, jailed, assassinated, and everything else that we can think of, with no statements from anybody, because the Western media doesn't cover it, and so we act like it's not happening.
We're raising our voices all the time. We ain't just worried about the lies that the mainstream is telling.
But we also have to know that the thing that will get picked up, all the other statements won't get picked up. But the moment you say a statement that seems to be both-sided, all of a sudden national news will now care what you have to say. So it's all about the calibration also of the statement and the timing, which helps to fit into a Western narrative of, and again, no matter what you think about Hamas, I think they also are a resistance movement. No matter what else I think about them.
Absolutely, because Hamas is not just a military group. They got social services, they got education, they got a whole host of things that's part of the resistance. Absolutely. And it's like ANC. I mean, I'm not a pacifist. I believe in just war. I believe you kill combatants. I believe you blow up property the way the Spirit of the Nation did with Mandela and company and so forth. But when it comes to killing innocent children, there's got to be a moral dimension. People say, well, now, Brother West, all of a sudden now you both sides. Ain't there's no both sides at all. I'm already standing on the side of resistance. Ain't nobody going to push Bishop Tutu out because he brings that issue up and he's a both-sider. No, we got to teach the younger generation that this ain't no both-sided perspective. Just because
when the
saying
IDF
this kind of thing,
and slave masters line up in a fair fight.
Different for the freedom fighters.
Okay, Dr. West, I take issue with the idea that innocent people were killed, because in a settler colonial project, settler colonialism is by definition a violent genocidal process. And we know this because here we are sitting on literal stolen land right here. This raggedy country. And so when we look at the settler colonial project in this country, when the Europeans were given an invitation by the government of this country that had cleared away, genocided, ethnically cleansed many of the indigenous people who were on this land, and offered them an invitation to come and just stake your claim in the land that is, it's free and clear. You just pay this little bit of money, you get a deed, and it's yours. Are the people who came here at that invitation of a genocidal government that but was still in the process of committing genocide against the indigenous people, were the people who came here and participated in that genocidal settler colonial project, were they innocent? Especially when they came in contact with what was left of the indigenous people, still trying to fight for their sovereignty and their land and their self-respect and their humanity and their self-determination. And what did those European settlers do? Did they say, oh, we have made a huge mistake, we didn't know people were here, we were lied to, how can we live peaceably with you? No, that's not what they did. They called on the U.S. Army to kill the rest of them, to help them kill the rest of them. The exact same thing is being done in Palestine with the illegitimate government of Israel, where people who have never set foot in Palestine, their families have never set foot in Palestine, were invited by a government that was propped up by U.S. imperialism and is defended by U.S. militarism to this day, as we see it playing out. And they tell these people, because you are of a particular religion, this is your country, you have a right to come here, and never mind all of those pesky Palestinians who are here that we have walled off in a prison and are holding in a concentration camp. And not only do you not have to worry about them and the fact that they were here first, but you are given carte blanche to abuse them to the point of murdering them, stealing their homes,
absolutely,
killing their children.
I'm with you, my
doing all of that. So the question, and in regard to October 7th in particular, I do have to question how decent people or innocent people have a dance party next to a concentration camp. I have a hard time.
Right, no,
with
that's a powerful question. I'm thinking mainly of the children. A 3-month-old baby is innocent for me. Whatever the benefits in the future and so forth and so on. I'm starting with the children. That's why I focus primarily on. But of course, I accept the story, the narrative, the analysis that you have. There's no doubt about that. Very much so. But what's fascinating is Frederick Douglass, Du Bois, even white brother William Lloyd Garrison, when it came to Nat Turner. You remember they had the big debate on the white kids and the white innocent folk?
And
they all agreed with y'all. And it's Martin King and a few others agree with me. But that's in the context of a Black freedom struggle in terms of the babies.
Well, I think we're starting at the wrong.
It's a discussion that goes, but in the end, resistance takes the form of nonviolence. The nonviolent Palestinian movement, the IDF shot them down like dogs over and over again, just like South Africa up until 1957. We've seen it in other contexts as well. That's why I'm not a pacifist like Martin, Tutu, and others. But what other forms of resistance? Well, that's why BTS means much, much, much to me, because it's a nonviolent form of resistance and it needs to be more robust and so forth. And I believe in violent resistance when it is what we call just war.
But my goodness, Dr. West, the targeting of children is a false, is a straw, false equivalence, whatever, a fallacy, name, pick one. The safest thing for Israeli and historically white children is not to be the children of colonizers and enslavers.
Don't be colonizers.
So I mean, you know, so
but they got to grow up to make a choice to go against their daddies and mommies.
Right, but they are innocent victims caught up in the process of a legitimate resistance struggle to occupation and colonization. That's the point.
That's true.
So that's all I'm saying. So when any allusion to some sort of balance where there's still need to say, I know you're not, but it's an allusion to it. When you do, I'm telling you, optically, when people, that's why you got some of the pushback on Twitter that at one point.
People just misunderstand. I've been misunderstood a lot of my life.
I know, and that's my point. That that was the point I was making a minute ago. So then when you come right back around, as you have often done, and march with Palestinians and stand and hashtag no occupation, you're very clear in that moment. What I'm suggesting is the impact, the positive impact of that is weakened by any allusion to some sort of false equivalence where you feel, or anyone feels compelled to do something, to say something like, well, we don't want Hamas's militant wing. You know, we have to throw all of that kind of stuff in there instead of just the focus being, if the IDF and in Israel fall back and stop occupying and do all of that, then there is no Hamas militant action. There is no whoever militant action that anybody in the world would then stand with, because the occupation is over. So
that's not true though, brother. That's not true either, because I mean, you know, we got a long history in this regard in terms of the PLO and Hamas, right? The ways in which Palestinians themselves have been tortured and killed by Hamas, who are not part of Hamas. It's a theocratic organization, man. It's deeply religious and hierarchical and xenophobic and a whole lot of other things too.
And it wouldn't exist if Israel hadn't encouraged it and it wasn't their
part of the community. But the problem is, once you follow the same logic you're talking about, then it easily becomes a matter of the internal devouring that can take place within the Palestinian community itself.
But Dr. West, without the settler colonial project of Israel and the United States
and Britain,
but that's right, because Palestine was not Britain's to give to anybody.
Absolutely.
The original colonizers, without colonization, we wouldn't be having these conversations about internal. And as an anti-imperialist, believing in the self-determination of other people, who Palestinians choose to represent them, that's not my business.
Well,
until
and
unless they request our assistance. If Palestinians are supportive of Hamas, then that's because the problem is not Hamas. The problem
That's
is
true.
Israel that is the foundational problem. It is imperialism. It is settler colonialism.
That's true.
And there are no innocent settlers. Settlers are not civilians. They can't be, because settler colonialism is a violent, militaristic, genocidal project by definition. There's no such thing as polite settler colonialism. And I say this as a Christian who has grown up with the narrative that you have to stand by Israel until I actually read the book.
Well, no, but as a Christian, it's that each and every person made in the image and likeness of God has a certain dignity and sanctity, no matter who they
absolutely,
are,
absolutely,
no matter what social system they find themselves in.
But then also, each person is responsible and accountable for their actions to that God. So the person who commits the offense, if you go and what does it say in the Old Testament in the Torah, where if you steal your neighbor's cow, you deliver back to your neighbors, what is it, 7 times, 2 or 7 times what you stole? If you took the life of your neighbor unjustly, you have to deliver back to your neighbor some, multiplicity of recompense for. So what have the colonizers done in the eyes of God, in the eyes of international law, and in regard to a recompense for stealing a whole country and stealing the lives of Palestinians?
That's real. But let me ask this question, just hypothetically in this regard, just to try to sharpen this issue of morality, that we were born in a European settler colonial system. A project shot through with terror against us, indigenous peoples, and so forth. In some ways, we've been beneficiaries of that imperial privilege, whether we wanted to or not. Now, does that mean that somebody who's against the settler project as Americans has a right to come at even the folk who have tried to be freedom fighters in it, because they're not innocent? They benefited from the imperial fruits.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
What do you all make of that?
No, I'm sorry. Say that again.
What I was saying, I'm saying that we ourselves were born in a European settler colonial project that became the mightiest empire in the history of the world, ripping folk off every corner of the globe. And we decided to stay Baltimore, ATL, New York, Harlem, or whatever it is.
Was it
we on the underside of that empire, but those who are against that empire would say everybody in it is a beneficiary of it and therefore subject to attack.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, do you all believe that?
Absolutely.
Well, didn't Walter Rodney say that?
Just quickly,
if they kill you all, they wrong. They wrong.
Well, hold on,
I don't. Lives.
I actually don't agree with that.
No, didn't Walter Rodney say about
disagreements on this thing?
Hold on, didn't Walter, 2 things real quick, and I'm gonna shut up.
No.
Didn't what? Because I yeah. So, but didn't Walter Rodney say about academics that they are the enemy of the people until they prove themselves otherwise? So, if we in the imperial core are just going along with our day, not caring about the oppression that we anti-imperialists, anti-colonialists are bringing to the fore, and people have made the decision. I don't care about that. I'm just trying to get the bag. I don't know what you want me to say for you, but this is why I am an anti-imperialist, because I know that because I am inside the imperial core, that's my responsibility.
I agree.
I have to prove myself an enemy of the system that creates the misery around the world. I must do that. That is my responsibility.
But folk on the outside may not distinguish between us and some other black folk who've accommodated themselves because we inside of the regime. They don't have time to.
That's our problem.
That's our mistake, isn't it?
That's an organizing issue, which we talk about all the time. This is why organization is important.
So that means you all would be willing to be shot down dead.
It's not about being willing, Dr. West.
Folk who
Dr.
would
West.
view us as beneficiaries of the empire? No.
Dr.
It's not-
West,
it's
we're
not-
getting shot down
I'ma
dead by the
defend,
pigs
I'ma
in the
defend all
empire
three of
every
y'all
day.
against that.
We
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
shot down by
No one is
pigs
calling
in
for us
the
to get
empire.
shot down. The point is if there is outside folks who see the empire as the enemy,
Right.
and if we haven't done our job in battling that empire,
But
and
they're
they
not gonna
just see
they're not gonna
us
be able to distinguish
as
it.
part of it,
They can't distinguish between us and
then
anybody
that's our
else.
fault. They should already be. In fact, if someone is planning an invasion, they need to get in touch with me fast so I can tell them where to go.
Holla.
Thank
Holla
you.
at your boy.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, that's our fault. You know, so
No, that's
We-
it. I mean, to me,
But I
honestly,
can
it's
tell you this:
it's
Hamas ain't gonna get it. Hamas ain't gonna necessarily get in contact with you now. The
Well,
PLO
but
might,
see-
but
but
Hamas ain't gonna get
see,
in contact with
this
you.
is-
Because one, they gonna find out you don't read the Quran. You ain't giving the 5 prayers a day. You're allowing the women to be too free, and you might be embracing
Dr.
some
West,
gay
that's
brothers
kind of
like James
Islamophobic.
Bond.
That's Islamophobic right
no,
there.
but I,
And
you know,
that's not
I
Islamophobic
just to
at
jump in
all,
really
sister.
quickly,
That's-
I don't necessarily. So I don't take the same
You're-
position of you can't critique. I
You
agree.
don't think
You
Iran
can-
is like that either? You don't think Iran is
No,
like that
you
either?
can definitely critique other, in my
Exactly.
opinion, you should definitely critique other liberation struggles because there are going to be differences between what you do and what they do. So I have no problem critiquing other
Absolutely.
liberation struggles. However,
While remaining a part
there's a
of it.
difference
While
between
remaining a part of it.
critiquing and understanding the difference between those who fight oppression, those who are part of a worldwide imperialist project. Without Iran, there would be no resistance in Palestine right now because it is Iran, in spite of any criticism I may give them, that has supported the Palestinian struggle, both for in terms of having weapons and training and the rest of it, that keeps the struggle alive. It would have been defeated a long time ago because no one else in the Middle East has stood up and stood with the Palestinians the way Iran has. The Saudi Arabians have.
You got the cowardly Arab elites who
the
sell them out
Jordanians,
all
the
the
Jordans
time.
have sold them out.
That's
The
right.
Saudi, the
right.
Egyptians have sold them out.
That's right.
Iran, in spite of whatever we think of its internal governing and the things that we may not ourselves want to live under, has an anti-imperialist lens about this is not your land. What are you here for? And maybe there's other things we need to work out later on between us that's our differences. But while there is an overwhelming worldwide imperialist nation and gathering of nations of Western white imperialists that needs to be battled for all of us to be free, I'm going to be down in that other camp. I'm going to be down in that other
But
camp.
does that mean though that does that mean that you go silent on what goes on inside of Iran when it suppresses its own insurgency with the sisters and others?
That means that you don't lift your voice when the Western media tells you that something is happening, and that's when you decide to lift your voice.
Exactly.
And that's what happens all too often is when something happens in a country like Iran, the West doesn't care about anything else Iran does that is positive, that's redistributive, that's about not having Western sovereign Westerners take over their land, because the West wants to overthrow Iran to put back in place a type of Shah of Iran leadership. And then the United States wouldn't care either way what happened in Iran. So
But why use the West as a point of reference, though, bro?
The only reasons we lift our voice when we do, it is because the Western media, whether we understand it or not, and I know you clearly do understand this, it's because the Western media's propaganda machine gives us the instruction, aha, now is the time to lift your voice and say something, and then we react.
No, that's not true.
Whether you
that's
know
not
it or
true
not,
at all,
whether you think that or not,
You
that is
think I'm
exactly what
gonna wait
happens
for the
time
Western
and time
media to
again.
raise my moral voice of what's going on in any society, including Iran itself?
That's not what he's saying.
That's not what he's saying.
We raise our voice when we are told to raise our voice, whether we understand that or not. When the Western media finds a reason to vilify Iran and to publicize it, it looks for everybody else to raise their voice and acquiesce and say, look how bad they are on this. And to do it when they say to do it. This is what the propaganda machine does. It makes us respond when it tells us to respond. Again, it never cares about Iran unless it can paint something negative. And if Iran's revolutionary regime was overthrown and in its place was put a dictatorship that did almost everything that we would accuse Iran of doing. You would never hear about it if it was an ally of the United States.
You would hear about it from us.
Well, maybe not. How many times?
Well,
how many
no,
statements
I'm
have you put up
for myself?
How many
I'm speaking
statements
for
have you put up
myself.
about? How many statements have you put up about Saudi Arabia?
Huh?
How many statements have you put out about Egypt in the last year?
About Egypt?
Egypt and or Saudi in the last year. How many statements have you put out about them?
I talk about them all the time in speeches and things.
How many statements have you put out about them?
I haven't put out any statements at all.
So let me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That doesn't mean I didn't raise my voice, though, brother. Just because I don't.
It doesn't mean that you may not disagree with what's happening in there, but what it does mean that until the institution of Western media, right, that works for the Western imperialists, tell us to raise our voice, then we all go, let's raise our voice. Now, again, whether we think we do it or not,
I don't think we're just waiting to be told by the plantation head.
But Dr. West, we actually are. Yes, we are, because
that at all.
Yes, because the entire hashtag movement, the entire outrage, the latest outrage about Iran last year and the oppression of women was based on an absolute lie that was cooked up by the U.S. government. The young woman who was allegedly beaten to death by Iranian police, by the Iranian morality police, that actually didn't happen. She did die, but she had medical conditions that contributed to her death. She was not beaten to death. Her parents even came out.
But the whole history of the subjugation of women in Iran since '79 is so overwhelming.
What happened in 1970? What happened in 1970?
I'm talking about the structural division attacks, the dissenting, the imprisonment. See, now you all just gone off into
Dr.
Going
West,
into a whole new cuckoo land in this regard. You can't. It is cuckoo land. If
look,
I'm saying to you, the structural oppression in Iran of women and leftists and Marxists and others.
So, but Israel is not oppressing Palestine because Iran has flaws.
That was
but now we just got
by
so
the
many
U.S. backed.
I just gave a keynote at the Islamic thing, right? And I talked about the Palestinians. They give the Palestinians standing ovation. Now, how many of the Palestinians or anybody of the Muslims are in any way critical of any other structural forms of oppression in Islamic societies? Very, very few. Well, where's the moral consistency here? We're not talking about a particular lie, my sister. We're talking about structures and institutions.
Where's the moral consistency of Christians in this country?
We ain't talking about Christians, we're talking about me. We're not talking about other Christians, I'm talking about myself now. I'm talking about myself. I'm not trying to justify Western voices and other Christians and so forth and so on. We're talking about what it means to be in solidarity with suffering, oppressed people, no matter who they are. Robeson and Du Bois had the same challenge of the Soviet Union. When you read Du Bois's Uncle Joe eulogy for Stalin, right? And it accents those positive contributions the Soviet Union made, anti-colonial, but doesn't say a mumbling word about the vicious forms of oppression in the Soviet Union. We got a disagreement.
I don't actually me.
And in that sense,
I
have a deep disagreement on that. But you can't use these big lies of the West to hide and conceal the unbelievable oppression and domination and vicious treatment of folk inside of the country.
If you're not going to point out the fact that the United States overthrew a whole socialist president in Iran and ushered in a brutal dictator who did exactly what you're saying he did, the Shah of Iran.
I'm agreeing with Mossadegh. He wasn't socialist, but he was a progressive nationalist.
He was close enough. He was more socialist than the U.S. wanted.
But that doesn't mean that somehow you're going to overlook or be silent about what the mullahs have done to the people there. I mean, that's why I have a radical.
But you do understand that there is, I mean, again, there even surveys and polls done within Iran show that there is support for the Iranian revolution. It doesn't mean that those folks don't want to make changes within their own government system that they supported in terms of its overthrow of the Shah. But it also doesn't mean that
So
they
you gonna believe
by,
that you gonna believe the polls of the Iranian government?
No.
We believe the Iranian people.
Polls that you would even, that someone from the West would even agree with, because they were made by Western organizations. And
I don't believe they polled
right?
either, but to go.
But I'm just saying they
Yeah.
weren't by, I'm not talking about polls by the Iranian government at gun, some fantasy of gunpoint. I'm talking about so-called independent polls. That doesn't show that there's universal support, but it does show that folks prefer their realm of government, but they want changes within, right? So in other words, if there is a revolution that happened within Iran that involves the government, they want it to be an internal revolution, not an external one forced on it by Western hypocrisy, right?
But
that's what they want, right? So I'm just saying, so just to be clear, and again, I'm only speaking for myself here.
Sure.
I believe in critiquing. I critique Cuba, right? I critique the Soviet Union, so forth and so on. But I understand that critique is done within a specific way and purpose. I also have to understand that there are times when people are calling for you to critique. When I say people, I definitely mean Western media and propaganda, because when they find reasons for you to critique and for you to badmouth, we spend all our, look, the last few minutes, we spent all our time talking about Iran. We haven't talked about the degradation in Egypt, the murder and killing in Egypt, who is a U.S. ally. The murder and killing in Saudi Arabia was a U.S. ally, right?
The same amount of money.
So I'm just saying that we have to be clear and understand that these things
I've done that, but
critiques don't take place in a vacuum. When the Western media is pointing to us places to critique, we all start to critique.
Well, no, but I think we freer than that, though, brother. I think we freer than that. It's just that it doesn't surface. It doesn't have a saliency until the Western media has a frenzy around it. But people are talking about this stuff all the time. I've been involved in struggles in Iran ever since the graduate students who were in engineering, and that was through the Green Revolution. That was through a whole host of different stages the last 40 years. And the media didn't give a dang about that. But people were still out there. I was out there marching with them. But I'm just giving that one example among a host of others, though. But I know it's getting late, though, y'all. Good God, I didn't know we were going to get into all of this wrestling like this. But no, but I think it's clear, though, that we do have some very, very deep disagreements in terms of how we conceive of the relationship between political struggle, morality, and context.
Well, Dr. West,
we really do.
As a person of faith, I think people should keep their morality out of politics as much as possible. Either you are for the people or you're not.
But that's a moral choice. That's a moral choice.
My personal morality might be a different thing. And other people's personal morality based on their faith tradition, whether it is an Abrahamic faith or whether it is a different kind of faith or whether it is no faith at all. That's it's politics and serving the people and self-determination for the people. And it's what you personally believe as far as your personal morality, whatever it is. Now let me, because the time is short, let me ask you this, because we have not talked about Haiti, and that is a problem, because Haiti is about to be subjected to the same imperialist terrorism
occupation
that Palestine has been subjected to once again. And it has been noticed that your campaign has not said much about the impending invasion of Haiti. So what do you have to say about that? And in particular, the comprador class of Africans leading Kenya and other African nations involved in this?
No, we did have a press release on that, owing to Brother Anthony, who's very close to Brother Jamu. But because we put out so many, it didn't have the kind of visibility. And you're absolutely right. when in fact there's a debate at the UN and it looks like the limelight is cast more on Haiti. It looked like when they're moving the troops from Kenya and other places, there's a certain visibility. Then you put out the same press release and it gets more attention than when you put it out and there's other issues taking place in that regard. Now, I think in regard to Haiti, we don't have any disagreements at all in terms of anti-occupation, in terms of anti-imperial policies and so forth. But for me, I do want to stress now, when we say we're for the people, that is a profoundly moral choice. That's not just personal morality. That's public morality. But then the question becomes, what do we mean by that? A whole lot of people say they're for the people. But when you actually look at their execution, or look at their cowardliness, and so they ain't really for the people. They're just talking about when we say we for the people, it's a deep moral and existential commitment, but then we might have very different interpretations of what we mean by for the people, be it in Haiti, Iran, wrestling with the Palestinian resistance in the form of Hamas, PLO, BDS. There's a variety of different forms of resistance that take place in that regard.
No, I think that's true. I think that, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but, I think morality, even if we think it's something that we're bringing, it's also something that's brought out from us or out of us.
Absolutely.
At certain times and places, depending on what facts are presented to us and what we're being told to be to show morality on. And so that my only point is not so much that I think we have different, so strongly different morality stances. My stronger point is that I think morality, just like a lot of things, can be manufactured. And it can be manufactured, whether we understand it or not, for purposes of covering up imperialist slaughter, or for purposes of liberating people who are, for decades, have been put under the boot of colonialist powers, and that day after day, 5 people killed, 10 people killed, 15 people killed, several hundred arrested or jailed, which don't get covered or don't get talked about. And so no morality is expressed in those instances. But the moment those people fight back, everyone has a morality statement to make. And so my point is that morality, of course, is deep within us. It is something that we have to project and show, but we have to understand that just like consent can be manufactured, morality can be manufactured too.
Well, morality is ideology, and ideology is the manufacturing process. I think you're absolutely right about that. Definitely. But then where we would disagree is the timing, what our reading of the context, and what kind of efficacy it can have or doesn't have. When do you critique what's happening in Iran? What is the context when you critique what's happening? Or do you just lie about it and say, well, it's not as bad as you think the Western media has been telling. The Western media has been telling lies from the very beginning. That's a given. So you don't even have to worry about making any reference to them. You got to find out for yourself what's happening in these countries. Yes. You got to find out for yourself what's happening.
Yes. Okay. And whose purpose does it serve when we critique? Also very important in terms of discussion, right? Mm-hmm. So what's leading to the critique? When is the critique happening? And who is being served by the critique? Are you actually serving the interests of the Iranian people through the critique? Is it somehow helping them?
Well, if the Iranian people are calling for it before they go to jail and so forth, then you respond to their cries.
And those things can be very different.
But I mean, that's a larger discussion, because me and Sister Jackie, we really clash on this thing. Lord have mercy.
My position on any country's internal contradictions, because let's not be fooled, every country has internal contradictions.
Many.
Every single one of them.
That's true.
There is not a country on the planet that we can look at and say, everything about this country is fantastic, lovely, I love it, it's perfect. It's a perfect socialist, communist utopia. Stop it. Let's not be immature here. There are contradictions in every country. My position as an anti-imperialist is that it is my responsibility to respond to what this government does to exacerbate or create those contradictions in those countries. It is up to the people in those countries to deal with what goes on, the contradictions in those countries. I have never been to Iran. I know some of the history. I know that this government lies, and I know they lied about that situation last year. It is my responsibility to raise every single time this government and its propaganda media apparatus lies about these international issues. It is my responsibility to do that because we are so deeply propagandized, and our people in particular are even more deeply propagandized. We believe everything the media tells us about what this government does and does not
But
do.
we're not talking about particular events. We're talking about structural things. I mean, my wife is Iranian. She can tell you all kinds of stories about family, friends, comrades. She was a revolutionary in 1979. This ain't a matter of just because the government is lying that somehow you have to pull back. I got comrades in Iran
Nobody is saying anything about pulling
but I
back.
mean, we don't have. I got a 230 thing, and But all I'm saying is, we got just deep disagreements. But there's got to be some kind of moral consistency that goes beyond simply talking about the Western lies. Anti-imperialism is not a gesture of solidarity with the people we choose. You also have to listen to the voices of those who are suffering as they deal with, you're right, the internal contradictions of the various societies.
Did I not just say that? Did I not just say that?
No,
that the people need to deal with their internal contradictions?
I got to run. I got this.
Dr. West, thank you very much.
All right.
You got 4 minutes. Peace, Dr. West. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Take good care. All right. All right, everybody. Definitely make sure you like, share, subscribe, join the channel, support the Patreon, blackpowermedia.org, because whatever you thought of that, there is nothing like when he comes around here. So it's just facts. You know, when you see him elsewhere, it might be good. You might enjoy it, but it's not like that. So how you all feel? Any last thoughts? Anything we want to say on the way out? Thanks to the remixers and all those who passed through.
I'm not surprised by his stance. I mean, I'm not surprised by his stances at all. I think some, I don't, the only thing I will say that's a critique, that he's not here now, so I don't like to do it when he's not here, was that I don't necessarily believe he's that naive about taking money from certain people, and or when he gives out certain statements, the impact of those statements, even on the people that he supposedly, the people that he does stand with in terms of Palestine. Like, I don't believe that someone that well-read, been around for that long, is sort of that naive in that respect. But I think he has to decide which way forward. And I think I think it was a great discussion, because still, I think the ultimate thing for me when thinking about Dr. West is what he calls himself is a jazz man, which for me means he's an individual. He likes to play what he likes to play. Yep. He likes to improvise. And I think this has obviously been known for decades, but Cornel is not necessarily interested in building organizations or institutions that are going to survive his legacy. And I think he has a really good legacy for the most part of standing up for people who are oppressed. So I do think that he needs to think about that. And, if he does come on again, which I'm not sure if he will, but if he does come on again.
No, I think he will.
I think we need to get more into that.
I honestly don't think that's something we have to worry about. And I think, as much as we disagree, Dr. West has a long career of sitting down with people he disagrees with, particularly in the Black community. And I always give him credit for that. If you sit in a room with Dr. Clark and take that for a couple hours, so I honestly don't think we'll have a problem other than the schedule. But I don't think it would be over just the disagreement. And I appreciate us and the collective here, because I don't think he would be pressed in that way with people with these politics and the perspectives that particularly you two brought to it. So I appreciate the both of you, and I enjoyed that. Serious disagreements for real, no doubt. Although I will say this, I thought his Green Party answer was better than I would have expected. I got to admit that. I thought his response to that was, I'm not saying I agree, but it was more compelling than I was expecting it to be. I thought and oddly, I think that was his strongest argument of the day. But
I agree, because I think
yeah.
he's bigger than the Green Party. Like in the Green, I think that's obvious. I mean, I think he was right. He is well known. He's better known in our community than the Green Party is. But still, if it's not, again, even if it's not the Green Party, an apparatus behind him would be nice. But I agree. Like his answer on whether or not he would attend, particularly he tried to break it down between the Fannie Lou Hamer and the small white gathering.
No, I'm sorry. The part for me, when you started to ask him on the Nat Turner joint, and I'm sorry.
Like, whoa.
So I'm sorry for breaking like that. I didn't mean to have my Jimmy Fallon on SNL moment and break, when I'm not supposed to be laughing, but I couldn't help it. I was like, son, you got to be kidding me right now. Are you really? Because I was like, you don't see this trap coming that I was walking you into? And he sure enough was like, nah, I would hold Nat Turner. I was like, my man, you got to be kidding.
And
you got to be kidding.
I'm sorry. My face, my face does whatever it feels like doing. I cannot control it. I am so sorry, but it's just what it is. And I get the internal stuff with the, choosing between radical Black organizations and Green Party events, but that's when you bring your people to you just bring your people to the cookout. It's like, look, what you gonna turn us all away? I don't think you are. That's so that's the one thing. And I do want to recognize that I was incorrect. Mossadegh was not a socialist. That's true. He was a progressive. He was a nationalist, and he was overthrown because he was nationalizing. He was about to nationalize the oil industry.
He's about to do something really socialist.
So that's close enough, right? Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you said that though.
Socialist enough,
But you corrected that live in the moment.
Did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you said all that. You basically said that. You checked. I mean, he pushed back and you adjusted. But the point again, the United States isn't, or Israel isn't oppressing or occupying Palestine because Iran has an imperfect Muslim leadership. I mean, that's like, these were the things that were kind of frustrating to me. And I'm glad you both were here to deal with it. But like, those are the when I hear people do that, and I was a little bit shocked that West did that. I wouldn't have expected him to argue it in that way, because it just starts to sound like everything else, and it's I mean, yeah. So, but Eddie, yeah. So I really, but that was it. We'll see. So
maybe he will prove us all wrong.
Well, we'll see.
And with the campaign, maybe he will prove us all wrong. And look, I'm trying.
I still think West has an opportunity. Again, I have no idea what the other resources he has to get on the ballot in different places. But I still think, him, Kennedy, again, from a different vantage point. I mean, they definitely have an opportunity to upset this race in ways in which folks from both parties are not going to be happy with. So I think he should stay in. But I do think there are serious issues that he has to confront around, what is he could be running to do what everybody says they're going to do about putting these ideas out there. But after it's over, right? And so if you're not leaving some institution behind, something structured where the next person can come and do it, then some of it does become a jazz man show. And I think we need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, that would have been, so the two things I would have liked to raise that I didn't remember at the time and didn't even have in my notes was, one would have been to your last point. Could you start running with someone who would be able to carry this on going forward, like help popularize or extend someone's existing popularity to be, to take your place? And then the question I know we asked him last time to recommit to, but I don't think we did today, which is, do you still recommit to finishing the race and not pulling out early and going for Biden? like, or whatever, one of those things. I would have liked one more time, just given the way things went today. Could you just reconfirm that one more time, my man? Because it's, but Jackie, there was a question in the chat about is your show coming? Are you going to have a show tonight?
No, actually, I'm not going to have a show tonight because I'm going to be at Montgomery College, I think, with Dr. Gerald Horn.
Oh, wow.
So Dr. Gerald Horn is speaking tonight, and I'm going to go see him because, Lord have mercy, I need a break. It's been a rough couple of weeks. This has been. It's really hard being an organizer who has been talking about Palestine both in the church that I belong to. For those of you who know my pastor, Reverend Graylin Hagler, that man has been an organizer all his life, practically all his religious life too. And, he's preached on Palestine from the pulpit. We have had teach-ins. We have had speakers come, Miko Peled, Jana Jihad, other people, all kinds of people from Palestine. He's gone to Palestine. And we've tied this issue to the issues that we deal with here in this country and around the world. So it's been particularly hard to stay on social media the past week and just kind of see the disregard people have for a genocide that is going on right now. It's been really hard. So I cannot do a show tonight. I need a break. So I need to go listen to Dr. Horn.
All right, right on.
Recenter myself because
you're gonna go check out the Horn section. Listen to some good music, intellectual music like that. That was pretty good. I thought that was
that was clever. That was very clever.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was all right.
All right, good people. So, like I said, like, share, subscribe. Please make sure you ring the bell. Don't miss all the stuff coming up all weekend long, all next week, all just whatever. Just ring the bell, and we'll see you next time right here on Black Power Media. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Take care.